Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our series of interviews for Breaking Down the Borders-5. I think this is going to be my last one anyway, and I'm very happy to have her here because she has been rather ill. Welcome, Anne Ortelee.
Hi, Chris. How are you? Nice to see you. Here we are.
Yeah.
York to Australia. What a wonderful thing. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, no, it's
They're having
good.
summer, we're having winter. Fall.
Yeah, no, we're going into our summer, and it's that awful springtime thing at the moment where, I mean, you can see I've got a light sweater on today, but I think yesterday and the day before I had the air conditioning on because it was just unbearably hot. You know, you can't win. You absolutely can't win. But I love it because I love it when all the blossoms come out. I had my first gardenia blossom the day before yesterday. You know, and yay, and I love it. So, but then you give me another month, and I'm going to be grumbling about the heat. So, you know, I've been grumbling about the cold for the last 4 months. Now I'm going to start grumbling about the heat.
Only one or two perfect months in there, and then we go into the other extremes. Right?
Absolutely, as long as the nights are cold.
Yes.
That's my big thing. I cannot sleep in a hot night.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was in New York, I was there for during a heat wave back in, well, was it 2008 or 2012? I can't remember. And I was staying with Arlene. Oh God, see, this is the old Senile Brad. Arlene out in Brooklyn.
Arlene Nymark.
Thank you. And it was just, the heat was unbearable. It was worse than here. It was a shocker. Anyway, enough about me, as they say.
It gets the buildings and the concrete gets very warm. It's like an oven, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like any big city, you know, I mean, it's everyone gets mad at me because I have a lot of trees around my house deliberately, and they say, oh, but you know, what about fires? So I don't care. It keeps the temperature stable in the house, and that's what I want. So you live in New York, right?
I do. I live in New York on 72nd and York on the Upper East Side, kind of the suburbs of New York, really. One of my friends calls it the land of tall buildings because all the buildings are tall, but it's a very residential part of Manhattan. So I'm up here, and I've been in this apartment since 1979. So
wow. Are you New York born and bred?
I'm New York State born and bred. I was born in Rochester, New York, upstate. It's a good sized mid city. It has like 5 tall buildings in it. And I came here in 1964 for the World's Fair, and I was like, wow, look at all these buildings. So when I moved here after college, I thought, well, I'll stay until I know all the names of all the buildings. Yeah. But what happens is they keep renaming them. Yeah. So I've been here 44 years later, because I moved here in 76, and then I'm in this in 41 years. Yeah. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
New York. A British astrologer had asked me one time, how did my chart react to New York? I have 23 points of contact with New York. Wow. So my loves New York. It just, yeah.
No, I love the way. I love the way Americans move around. You know, you find very few Americans living in the same place they were born, you know, the same town. Whereas here in Australia, that's only just starting to happen. I mean, I was born in Sydney. I've lived in Sydney all my life, you know. But nowadays, I think with the interaction of commerce so much, now, you know, they go down to Melbourne and live for 3 years, you know, they go to Adelaide, they intermix a lot more. And of course, a lot now go overseas to work. Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of movie stars from Australia. You know, they said that they go down and look for the Australian hot ones and bring them back. And I have to say, you have good-looking movie stars. Just saying, you know.
We're a good-looking race. No, we're slowly taking over the world. You know, China is doing it through business and commerce. We're doing it through our entertainers.
Good. You know, everybody's got to have a skill set.
Absolutely. So this is your first time for Borders, and we're so happy to have you. So, but I ask all my first-time speakers, all my new additions to my family, as I call them, what did you want to be when you were a child, when you grew up? I put that the wrong way around, but
yeah, I didn't actually have a thing I wanted to be. My mother was like, "Are you happy? Do you like what you do?" And so she and my father would periodically have little spats. He would come home and say, "Why aren't our kids more like the Wiener kids?" And my mother would say, "Our kids are happy, and you know they're happy doing their thing, and that's really what a good life is." So, I mean, I knew I was going to go to college because my mother was really adamant about her girls were going to college because her mother, the money was for the boy. You know, the boy got to go to college. My mother was a nurse. My dad was a physician. So, really all the time, my father would go, "Why can't our kids be more like the Wiener kids?" I guess he was comparing children and things. So after my mom passed, he went over to Bob and Rita Wiener's, and they're having dinner with their son. And the son says, "Okay, Dad, I want to go back to for my third doctorate," you know. And his father said to him, "Why can't you be more like the Ortelee kids and get a job?" Right? So, because my father made us go to work when we were 16, he said, "Your allowance is cut off," and he got a lot of flack for that. He's like, They have to make a living, they have to take care of themselves, and I'll pay for their education through college, and then they're on their own. But we had to pay for books and stuff like that. So he came home and he called, to his credit, he called all three of us, and he said, "I know your mother is laughing because this is what just happened at the Wieners when they had me over for dinner. Why can't your kids be more like the Ortelee kids? You know, why can't you be," and I thought, oh, okay, so that energy. So my mother really was, do you like what you want? Do you like what you're doing? Are you happy at it?
Yeah.
And if you're not happy, make a change. And she was a Leo with a Gemini rising and a moon in Sag. So she was very clear with a good solid Mars. She was very clear that it really was, make your best life.
Yeah, it's interesting because we had a similar thing in my family, except it was the other way around. Okay. It was my mother, and she didn't say she used to say to us, "Why can't you?" There was one in particular, a girl called Mary Ann. I've never forgotten it. And she used to say to us, "Why can't you be more like Mary Ann?" And of course, my sister and I ended up hating this Mary Ann. But my dad was a scientist, and he always said to us, "Look, you do what makes you happy, and right. you do what you want to do." Yes. And when I became an astrologer, my mother used to call it my mumbo jumbo. She'd say to me, "Are you making any money from it yet? Are you making any money from it yet?" And as long as I was making money, she said, "Well, okay, that's all right." Mind you, she never hesitated to ask me to look at her chart, but she always called it my mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, you're going to be really doing it. When I told my father I wanted to become an astrologer, because I was a mid-career, I changed into being an astrologer in 2001, right? So he was like, "I want my college tuition money back." And I said to him, "Write the school. You didn't give it to me. You paid the school." And oh, by the way, St. Bonaventure and St. Francis both were astrologers, brother, sun, sister, moon, the canonical of the moon. I'm like, they were astrologers, Dad, so they're kind of in with me doing this, right? And baby Jesus was found by astrologers. They followed a big star, Jupiter, Saturn conjunction in Pisces for the whole year. So I'm always like, you wouldn't have Jesus if it wasn't for us. So I'm, very, yeah. But, after I got, I started doing well, he always was like, he had one job his whole life, being a doctor. So mine changed. And one time I went to my aunt's for Christmas, Thanksgiving. And this accountant and his wife had joined us. And he looks at me, he says, "So what do you do for a living?" And I said, "I'm an astrologer." He goes, "Can you make a living doing that?" I said, "Actually, I do pretty well." And my father leaned over. "She gets bored and she changes her job." And I went, "Well, actually that's true." I'm not going to, but I've been an astrologer now since 1994 and full-time since 2001. So I haven't changed my job since then.
So what did you do at college?
That's really interesting, huh?
What did you do at college? What was the job that you were doing before you became an astrologer?
Well, my mother was like, "What do you want to do?" And I didn't really know. So I liked biology. So we went for a biology, and I liked philosophy and theology. So I was a minor in that. And then freshman year, I flunked out of college because of a little bit too much partying and a little bit too much beer and not getting up at 8 in the morning for the class on the 4th floor.
Yeah.
So I flunked out freshman year, freshman Christmas. They had a freshman flunk out program. So I signed a paper that I owed my father, you know, the tuition if I got less than a C+ the next year, and the room and board. And so he let me go back because he was like, they just want my money. And the school, to its credit, had a freshman flunk out program. They were like, you know, they have a little trouble with setting their boundaries, you know, getting up for class, you know, all this freedom. So then I turned into a psych major with a minor in bio and a philosophy and theology minor, right? So I took full course load because back then you paid a tuition, you could take as many credits as you wanted. And I loved it. And then to be doing anything in psychology, you had to go for a doctorate. And I was like done with school. I was just like, I want to work, I want to get a job. So I got a job in New York in business. I applied and got accepted here, and I had a job in Rochester. And I came down here 2 weeks after I graduated and have been here ever since. So I worked in the summer, and then I worked for an insurance company, and then I was working for them for a couple of years, and I got recruited to work in computers. So I was a computer programmer at the time, computer programming sales. I had my own computer business from 89 to 94, and then astrology came in. And I kept doing the computer stuff and the astrology, and then the practice built, and then it was like, my birthday's 9/11, so that was my office blew up. So I thought, well, that's a sign from God, I should go full time.
Well, yeah, that's a big sign.
I'm a Virgo, you know, you always get a little worried. So, but yeah, that was it. So it was, and as one of my friends said when we were working in the insurance, she says, nobody grows up and says they want to be in the insurance industry. But it was math, it was methods and procedures. It was, you know, organizing, keeping track of the high cost claims and all that stuff. So yeah.
No, I think that kind of thing, I know from my own life, you know, you do all these things before you end up being a full-time astrologer, but I have found that all of them have served a purpose within my astrology practice.
Totally.
And I was just thinking as you were talking there, I thought, wow, what a background to be able to set up an astrology business, which so many astrologers don't have.
Yeah.
You know, they just go into it and they just take the money from the clients and they don't know how to do that or to keep books or to, and you've had all that background, which is great.
Well, so, and when my own computer business, I sold to lawyers who are pretty bad at money. They're paper people, right? So I sold accounting systems to them and, you know, legal billing systems. And then when I was AIG, we kept track of, you know, the claims. And so I had a real understanding, you know, you had to do posting and keeping track. Not my favorite. I have Saturn and Scorpio, but, you know.
Who likes doing it, but it's got to be done.
Got to be done, and it's my job, and I go, okay, I'm on it, you know, so yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I think astrologers by nature are altruistic, and you know, I had students and even clients who would say to me, look, I can't afford to pay you, and I would say something like, well, look, that's fine, you know, that's okay, but at some point you have to, because unfortunately the telephone company doesn't let me not pay them.
Right.
So, you know, it has to happen. So what was your first contact with astrology? How did you get into it?
I got dumped. And
it's a good start.
He was on my prenatal eclipse, and he ran off with the woman who was born the day after him, right? So it was kind of like I ran off with himself. You know, he's a Cancer, right? So I'm a Virgo, so you know, earth and water make mud. It was 14 and a half years. It wasn't a short relationship, but you know, when people leave your life, new people come in. So I brought in a bunch of witches.
Oh, good. Okay.
And well, you know, what can I say? Saturn and Scorpio, right? Saturn was on my moon, right, when that happened. So they all were like, you know, you're at this turning point. You should go see an astrologer. And I'm like, you know, like what? You know, like astrologer? Like, and they're like, no, they're really good when you're at a crossroads. I'm like, all right. And I have Pluto in the 7th, so I tend to be a Pluto in this. I tend to pull in clients that are going through Pluto, and of course I was going through a Pluto transit at the time. So I went to this guy, John Marcusella. He's a great astrologer. He's here in New York on a Saturday morning at 11:30, and he read my Friday morning at 11:30. He read my chart. And about halfway through, I'm having Saturn on my moon, so I burst into tears about 10 minutes into the reading, right? Dog hops on my lap. He had a great dog named George. And I said, well, you know, there was this guy. And he goes, what's his birthday? Looks it up in the ephemeris, starts talking about the Cancer guy, what they're like, and where it landed in my, you know. Now, in hindsight, being an astrologer, I get it. But at that point, my mouth was on the floor. And he goes, well, didn't you break up with him 7 years ago? And I'm like, yeah. And then I kind of went back with him. I didn't tell my friends, and they all came out as hating him, right? So he said, you should have stayed broken up. But he's like, you know, he's gone. It was Saturn to my ascendant, Saturn to my moon, right? So, and he's not coming back. You have a whole new life coming. You don't even know what it is. Starts in the fall. So I'm like, all right. So then I went away that weekend with the witches. One of them had a country house. So we all went up to the house. It was a nice June day. And one of them said, I said, how does he do that? And they were like, can we listen to your tape? I'm like, hell no. But how does he do that? They go, well, he teaches it. It's astrology. You know, you can learn it. So I came back on Monday and called him, and he said, well, I'm starting a beginner class in September. So on September, I went, and it was right by my birthday, September 11th, and I sat on his couch for 2.5 years and learned astrology. Yeah. And that was the beginning. And about 2 months in, I was like, we should all be taught our chart in first grade, like math and reading. Just the basics, like you have a Pisces moon, take a shower. Feeling a little stressed, have a cup of tea. Stick your hands under the water. You know, you're a fire sign, go out and walk. You know, basic stuff. Doesn't have to be fancy astrology, just functional. And then it became, you know, as you know, astrology, you kind of start and then you get into it and you're like obsessive. So I had that phase.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Don't you know the old story? There's an old story about when you go to a conference and you listen to the conversations and you hear, you know, two people meet one another and they say, hello, my name is Chris. I'm a Cancer. Oh, I'm Anne. I'm a Virgo. And, you know, beginners. And then you hear them saying, oh, hi, Anne. Guess what? I've had Saturn on my ascendant all year. They're mid-students. And then you hear, hi, Anne. How are the cats? Good. How are your dogs?
You know a lot just knowing their stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really was. It just kind of came in, and you know, it was Saturn on my moon. It was a whole new life, a whole new career, really. Yeah. And you know, the thing I like about astrology is when you do a reading for someone, you're saying to them, pay attention, something important's going to happen here, and they know to watch it coming in. You know, which is when I do readings, I always like to say, you want to watch who you meet this day or this time period, because this person is going to be with you for a long time. And that gives you an ability to really kind of work proactively with your chart. So. Absolutely.
I mean, a chart is a guide after all. It's not a, you know, that's what it is. But I agree with you. I mean, I think, you know, every time a new baby is born, automatically their chart ought to be, you know, just generated and just a brief thing that, okay, these are the areas where you should encourage your child or watch, because this is where there could be problems. That's enough. That's all you need.
All you need. These are the strengths. These are the areas of growth.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. Yeah. So let's talk about your lecture that you're going to do. Okay. So it's on Draconic Charts.
Yeah.
And just so that people know, and I'll repeat it again at the end, I think you're talking at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday the 8th.
Yeah.
Okay. I think even, yeah, I'll be able to make that too. Just that's first thing in the morning for me, but I should be able to.
We know about you in the morning, so you got to bring a cup of coffee, you know, and hang out.
I have to have that cigarette and that cup of tea, and then I'm okay.
Right.
And I love that about doing cyber stuff. I can quietly smoke and nobody can object because they can't smell it. They can't, you know. So
Is a real, I hadn't thought of that as a benefit, but you're right, you know.
Well, for me, it's a huge benefit. You know, it's great.
You have to go out and talk in a real conference, you know, so when you're in a
That's
cyber, you can just kind of hang out, you know, it's good.
right. Oh, my goodness me. Well, they always say that's the most interesting part of the conference is to go out with all the smokers because that's where all the interesting people are.
Interesting people are the smoking part. This is so true. You walk, especially when you walk out like at UAC or something like that, and you kind of look around and you go, wow, look who's out in the hallway here. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's quite, especially at UAC at 2018, I mean, the whole street was lined with us at once. You know, I felt so sorry for the passers-by.
And the one in New Orleans, everybody was by the pool. It was a good
right.
They're good.
Right.
They're good conferences, you know. Yeah.
I lived by that pool. Really.
Cool.
Okay, so tell us about Draconic Charts. Now, first of all, it might be worthwhile explaining exactly what is the Draconic Chart.
Yeah. So what a Draconic Chart is, and there's stuff on the internet which people can, of course, take advantage of. But I find a lot of times, especially when you're at a big crossroads, which is usually when I run into clients, talking to them about their spiritual path. So I kind of think of the Draconic Chart as your soul's intention over time, right? So you have this life, and of course I was raised Catholic, so we didn't have reincarnation. But your soul says, this is what I'm trying to learn in this lifetime. And the vehicle of your incarnation is your chart, right? So that says this is your path, this is your job, this is what you're doing. But it's in the perspective of your soul across time and space. What the Draconic Chart does is it says, okay, let's adjust your node of fate, North Node of Fate, to 0 Aries. And what 0 Aries, of course, there's only a couple days where the node's at 0 Aries every 19 years. So let's say you have a Cancer node or a Capricorn node. So you take the Cancer node and you turn it all the way to 0 Aries. And then you move all the planets in the chart the same amount. And then you have what's called the Draconic Chart. And it's called the dragon. You know, Draconic is the dragon, right? And we think of, you know, the head of the dragon is now at 0 Aries, which is leading you towards your karma and your fate. But you're born with Cancer moon, so you're going to do your fate with the Cancer moon flavor, but the soul is keeping track of what you're doing over time and space. So what the Draconic Chart is it looks exactly like your natal chart, except everything's shifted with 0 Aries, and then you look at the chart as a standalone to see what it looks like for you. You know, like what is, like if you were meeting this person, who would you be meeting? And when you describe that chart to someone, the person goes, wow, you really know who I am. Because the chart sometimes can have a little more conflict in it, which we can resolve, of course, through the 9th harmonic, like the Navamsa chart that the Vedic astrologies use. You know, the 9th harmonic shows you your karma from the previous incarnation, why you have this chart. But the soul's path is the Draconic, and it's a really powerful chart. And then, so we look at it first as a standalone, because it's going to have all the same aspects your natal chart has. So you already know the aspects. You just have to look at the new signs and the new house rulers and the new dynamic because the planets shifted. And then you apply it to your natal chart to see how do you activate your Draconic. How does your soul activate your natal chart? So it's very interesting to look at because sometimes there's only a single activation point where you're only on that point. Whenever that gets triggered, your soul's path opens. Sometimes you have a few points. And, you know, if you're really working and saying, I want to live my best life, if you live the Draconic chart, your life flies like, you know, 90 miles an hour. It just takes off and goes. So I like it because it talks about your soul's purpose, what it's really trying to do, even though you're in this particular body, in this particular country, in this particular location. So mine has a very strong emphasis for teaching. Natal midheaven is Sag, but when you look at my Draconic chart, it's teach, 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 talk, talk, talk. And, you know, my whole life I've taught because I taught software programming, I taught computer programming, I mean, just all different things, and I teach people about their charts now. So, and I teach here at the conference. So, and writing, big writing energy. So, but it also is how to use your chart in an easy way. It's kind of like a sneaky peek way to do your chart. You know how, like, you know, they have those hacks on the thing, you know, like, this is how you get your strawberries to taste better.
Yeah.
This is how you refresh wilted lettuce.
Yeah.
The Draconic chart is your astrology hack.
All right. I like hacks.
I know, I love hacks. I'm like, ooh, that's a good way to boil eggs, you know. Man, the shells peel off. You know, I always feel like when I find one of those, you know, it's one of those you remember it forever. So yeah, so I love Draconics, and the first time I ran into them, I was just really stunned by the power of them. And we get it, you know, we know the nodes of fate are a path on major level, but this way really just fine tunes it right in, and it says, watch this, watch this. And of course, you know, on occasion, what will happen is you'll have your solar arc. I had this just the other day. Someone's solar arc arced into their Draconic chart. And they were like, you know, and it had been a year where they had just, I said, well, this is your chart. Like, can I live like this forever? I was like, yeah, that's how you should be living, really. Because it's a fascinating, you know, because the solar arc, of course, marches around the chart order. You know, it can eventually catch your Draconic depending on where you are, where your nodes are.
It must eventually.
Well, it may not be this lifetime, but but the idea is it's just a really juicy chart, and just so informative, and people go home and they get incredible insights about what they're working on. And of course, you take your Draconic and you compare it to partner's Draconic, and you see where your souls connect. You know, why did you pull this? What is this person's soul and intention for you from your soul? Because it's gonna be different. It's not going to be necessarily sun moon, because they might have a different moon now than, you know, you can be completely different. So, and I've had it actually, you know, I had one student, she applied it to her partner's chart and hers, and it really helped them work through a really tough time in their marriage and stay together, because she understood what his soul needed. And, you know, and you can apply transits to it, you know, so it's a chart. You can progress it, you can apply transits to it. I generally do that with clients, but I do it with myself.
No, I know. I've never used them. I've known about them, of course, for years, but I do know people who do use them have always sworn by them.
Yes.
I mean, you know, I think that's when I saw you were doing that, I thought, okay, yeah, I really should get to know a little bit more about that.
I'm gonna get up for breakfast for my talk, is what you're telling me. Is that what you're telling me, Miss Chris?
Yeah, I'll get my tea and I'm sitting like.
Yeah,
so
I'm calling you, I promise. I'll just wait. I see you got up.
No, I think most people do that. If they see me at that hour of the morning, they go, oh, look, there's Chris. Wow.
She woke up. Yeah.
So, Anne, I hope after your lecture or before your lecture, I hope you all go into our foyer, which is our open room. It's open for, I think it works out about 18 hours over each day, which is just a room where everybody can go and relax and talk informally and so on. And it's a place, you know, it's our beside the pool. You know?
Fun smoking area. Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I did that last time I did one. They had that afterwards, and I thought, what a great idea, because normally you give the lecture and you hang up. So we did a little.
No, we've always had that. We tried right from the very beginning to make this conference as much like a physical conference as we possibly could, you know, within the bounds. But I mean, now it's you know, we've done that for 10 years. Now I think we're going to have to adapt more to cyber conferences thanks to COVID.
Right.
So it'll be quite interesting. Somebody said, oh, we'll be doing a holographic one next. And I said, well, that one you might be able to lure me back out of retirement for. You know?
Right. And were you one of the founders of BDTB?
I'm sorry?
Were you one of the founders of Breaking Down the Border?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was the brainchild of a telephone conversation between me and Ina Stanley.
Okay.
And we both were saying how much we both wanted to do a conference, and anyway, it's all on a tape if you want to go and have a look at it. I did a little video talking about it, you know, how it all came to be. And but this is my last one. I retire after this one.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
I have to retire. Well, I've been in astrology, you know, practicing astrology for almost 50 years now. So It's been a very long time, and there are books to be written and a whole other life out there, not to mention a totally overgrown garden and a disgustingly messy house.
But you really want to clean the house? No, I think you're going to miss.
No, but there are certain boundaries even I won't. I mean, look at that bookshelf behind me. I mean, it's just terrible.
You know where every book is in your house. You can't tell me with being a Cancer, you don't know what's in the pile and what's in there, right?
Yeah. No, I have a Uranus Saturn. Well, I'm going in the wrong order. No, I'm not. Uranus Moon Saturn.
Okay. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's Moon. Good heavens! See, I'm going senile. Moon, Uranus, Saturn.
Okay.
And I always say to people when they talk about Uranus, and I say my poor little Uranus is trapped. It's got mum on one side and dad on the other, so it's sort of very hard to get moving. But my life is one of create chaos so I can create order, so I can create chaos so I can create order. That's how my life goes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always going from one to the other.
Well, and it makes you happy to do that because you work with that breaking down.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Nurture and then create something from it,
Yeah.
I mean, if we're thinking God, he said, hey, I create day and night, I'll create, and then he rests. So, you can have a rest, but I think you might be back, So what books are you going to write?
So thank you so much, Anne. I so appreciate your time. Please stay healthy.
Yes, I'm on the other side of COVID. I've got antibodies. I'm good to go. So
great. That's great. So in that case, we'll see you in just on a month's time. Just over, we start 4 weeks today. That's quite terrifying. So I look forward to seeing you either in your lecture or in the foyer or somewhere where I can at least say, hi, how are you feeling?
Good. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for interviewing me, and good luck with the conference. So I look forward to attending my first conference too. So you're first. It's it's one of those.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Anne.
Thanks, Chris.